Welcome to I think we might have started. Hello and welcome again if that started too soon. Welcome to the Work at Home Mom Strategy Hour. And I'm thrilled. I am Susan and I'm here and I'm thrilled to be joined with Crystal from Crystal & Co. And today we're going to be talking about how to organize your family life so you can work successfully at home. And I've asked Crystal to come on today. Crystal will introduce herself a bit more in just a moment, but I'll just share with you who she is a little from my perspective and why I've invited her here to share with us. Crystal, I've met Crystal through Kelly, who runs this strategy hour with me. But Kelly is away today, so I brought on her friend and co-host of their blogging show, which is called Learn to Blog. I've talked about it so often. I'm a regular listener of it myself. And Crystal has 5 boys and homeschools as well as blogs very successfully and has created a very successful work-at-home business through her blog. So I've invited Crystal so we can pick her brain and get her secrets. All right, Crystal, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, well, thank you very, very much for having me here. I am a Dallas mom blogger, and I started my blog about 5 years ago. In the beginning, it was just a very casual, writing whenever I had a chance kind of thing. I was really in the trenches of raising little kids. My twins at the time were 2, and I was soon pregnant with our 5th child. And there wasn't a lot of time for writing then, but I started blogging at that time, and then slowly my site morphed into just kind of a mommy resource, mommy solution site. And along the way, about 3 years ago, I came across who is now my great blogging friend, Kelly Miller from 3 Boys and a Dog, who's also friends with Susan. And I just had tons of questions on blogging, and I asked her the questions, and previously no one would ever answer my questions. Sometimes you send emails out to big bloggers and you never hear anything back, and now I get it. They're busy. I understand how the email box fills up and whatnot, but at the time I just wanted help, and Kelly helped me, and from there she and I have just developed this ongoing, we've been really good friends for probably 3 years and just growing our sites off of one another. And so now my blog is at a point where I probably spend a good 40 hours a week working on stuff. There's a lot that goes into getting a blog out there, and I know that other people are working from home doing things aside from blogging. So I just kind of wanted to share with you guys how we do it and my tips and pointers for getting it done. So thank you so much for having me on, Susan.
Well, as I said, I'm thrilled to have you on. I'm so amazed that somehow you managed to squeeze 40 hours, extra hours out of a busy mom's life to work at home. And I often say being a mom is the hardest job in the whole world. We all know that our moms, it is the hardest thing. And then starting and running your own business is also just ridiculously hard. And the failure rates, for starting a business or for trying to create or monetize your blog, I mean, the rates of not succeeding are far too high. So to be able to combine and do both of those, it's almost a ridiculously crazy feat that we take on. And we do it for the love of both, right? I mean, being a mom is the most difficult thing, but you love it the most at the end of the day. Blogging and monetizing blogging is ridiculously hard, but again, at the end of the day, it's this amazing feeling that you sort of created something from nothing. That's what I sort of think of it as. We're really creating this business, creating this income from almost nothing. Just from our own sort of passion, our own writing, putting something out there in this space that a few years ago never even existed, creating these relationships with brands and bloggers and PR reps, and as we forge onto this new frontier that literally didn't exist a few years back. Now, you told me an interesting story about how you got started and what your inspiration was, and I think it's an interesting story, so if you could share that, because it will also show a little bit of the differences of the strategies, and tell us how you got started, what your inspiration first was.
Yes, absolutely. So like I had said, I had started this blog, and it really was just kind of like a journal kind of thing. And my first blog post was about the day that my twins were 2.5 years old and they cracked 17 eggs in my living room. And I was like, I have got to start a blog because I'm never going to remember all of this stuff. So initially, those are the kind of things that I was writing about, and it was just very sporadic here and there. And then when our last baby was born, I was literally, this may sound a little cliche or cheesy, but I was seriously one afternoon watching Oprah and nursing my baby, and Oprah had these women on who were bloggers. And I'm like, well, I'm a blogger too, you know, I write a post every now and then. So I'm taking care of my baby and I'm watching this, and this lady named Deuce was on, and it was reported that she was making $40,000 a month. And that stopped me dead in my tracks. I'm like, what? How are they doing this? People are taking this information that they're sharing on their blogs and turning it into a business. How are they doing it? That's amazing. So that's kind of when I got serious about really researching and finding out how to, I knew that blogs are really all about relating with one another. And so for moms to be able to use that platform to relate to other moms and to be able to turn it into a business at the same time is pretty phenomenal. And like you said, we're paving the way. Who knows what this will look like in 20 years, but we're kind of in the beginning of all of this, and I'm enjoying it, and that's truly where my motivation was. And then soon I heard of Pioneer Woman, and I'm like, she's written a book, oh my goodness, you know. And you just start seeing these people who are successfully doing this, and that's just one more grasp of reality, knowing that I can do this too. And so that's kind of been my motivation. So that's truly how my story got started.
I think it is really interesting. One of the main things that I want to point out there is that I love that your response was taking action and pushing to find the answers. Now, a lot of people would have different, I mean, many people saw that show on Oprah, you know, and we were blogging at the time when that happened, and a lot of people have different attitudes about that, and some people would get jealous and angry and how's she making that, and have all kinds of different reactions. And I love that you were like, wait, if she's doing something, I'm going to find out what all the different approaches are here and take action. And then you kept seeking answers. Now, it's interesting because obviously the way Deuce makes money on her blog is different than the way you and I and the way Kelly and all types of women bloggers, there's slightly different variations in how we all monetize. And you can't compare one exactly to the other. Blogs have slightly different nature, and the way we all monetize, we use some of the same strategies, and some of them sort of differ. So we don't want to get too into that right now, because what we want to talk, but I just wanted to point that out, that that's something important to notice. And so the key here that I want to take from your story is that you took action, and that you had to find answers and find ways to make it work. And you didn't let excuses or your story of, well, I have too many kids, I don't have all the advantages that perhaps Deuce had, why she got started, when she got started, this type of thing. But you sought out answers, you made plans, you got organized, and you made it happen. So what we're going to dig into here is how some of those ways you got organized and how you were like, I got to squeeze time out of my day, because yes, we all want to make a whole bunch of money from our blog. It is insanely hard, and you need a massive amount of time to do it. And like you said, you're honest, you get 40 hours. So let's dig into how you get those extra 40 hours. You've already got too much to do on your plate. You got 5 boys, for goodness sake.
Yes.
And you homeschool!
I homeschool 4 of them, yes. But so basically, I can kind of break this down for you guys in 5 simple steps on how I do this. And it's not like that day after I watched that episode of Oprah, I didn't say, you know what, I'm setting up an office, I'm doing this, this, and this. I knew I'm a very motivated person, and I had a goal, an end goal in mind, and I knew where I wanted to go. And slowly but surely, all of these pieces just kind of fell together for me. So one of the very first things that I think is very important for anyone who's working from home, and I get emails constantly from readers who are wanting to work from home, looking for places that they could work from home, not wanting to run a blog, wanting to do something different. And one of the first things that I always tell people is that you have to understand this is a beast in and of itself, working from home. So if you have to understand the nature of the beast, and that's an old statement that my old boss used to say when I worked in corporate America. So, and it applies in so many areas of life. But there is, when you're working from home, I would say that if you're an extremely type A personality who must have everything extremely organized, and you're, hypersensitive to scheduling and whatnot, working at home might be a little more difficult for someone of that personality starting off. For me, people will say, you must be so organized to do this, but I'll tell you, I'm not the most organized person on the planet whatsoever. I was before I had 5 kids, but not now. One of the biggest things is you have to understand that you have to bend like a willow tree. You have to be able to to give and take. And you have to understand that, I mean, let's face it, companies all across America are realizing that moms can work, dads can work from home, and they don't have to spend money on cubicle space and office space and furniture, etc. And they could set you up at home to do the same job and to telecommute. And so this is something that no matter what form of business you're in, whether you're working from home for a company or you're starting your own company, this is something that you can certainly do. Now, while there's the beauty of I can get dinner going in the crock pot and I can get laundry going from the washer to the dryer, and there's those great things, those are also distractions. And so you have to be able to kind of juggle all of those things. And so one of the first things that I always tell people is that you have to understand the nature of what you're getting into, and you have to be able to be flexible and kind of bend. Don't you agree, Susan? I mean, isn't that
absolutely
that your day is very much like that too?
Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, first and foremost, our kids are our top priorities, and that's why we're doing this. So we fold and bend our schedules and our lives around them, because that's why most of us are doing this extra effort of trying to work at home. But that being said, it is really tough and it's really stressful to try to get enough work done. And I am telling you, ladies, my stress through the roof so much trying to balance and juggle things. It is not easy. And sometimes it might seem, when you sort of look at our website, oh, we got our happy smiling pictures at the top, and oh, everything must be easy for them. For all of us, we might assume that things are easier than they really are. Behind the scenes, we are juggling, we're stressed out, and it's not all easy. But if you want to just push forward and still get to the benefits at the end, yes, you're going to have to be flexible, you have to juggle things, and you have to sort of multitask. But it's very, your schedule will totally differ from a next blogger's schedule, okay? So you can't sort of say, all right, well, this was Crystal's schedule, so this has to be my schedule. You also have to look at what your natural clock is. Like, are you an early morning person? You're so lucky if you're an early morning person, okay? I am the opposite. I'm probably as far extreme of not being an early morning person that there can possibly be. I would much rather work until 5:30 in the morning than get up at 5:30 in the morning. But Crystal, tell us how you, and I'll be honest, most successful people in the world get up early. Crystal, tell us how you do it.
Well, so this kind of goes back to, I left corporate America in end of 2005 when I was pregnant with my twins. And when they were about 6 months old, I started working from home for a company that does continuing education for doctors and nurses. And I did about 25 hours a week at that time. And so this was kind of my get my feet wet stage in working from home. And at that time, I quickly understood that it was very important to get up early to get as much stuff done as I possibly could. And soon after working from home, I also became very involved in my 2 older kids were in public school, and I became very involved in their PTA and was crazy enough to do the president role for a couple of years. And I have little twins. I'm now pregnant with our last baby, and I'm thinking, there's not enough hours in the day. And so I made it a habit. I realized very quickly that if I could get up before everybody else, if I could get up and spend 1 to 2 hours working on my work, and I still do this now, so whether it's blog or whether you're working for a company, whatever you're doing, volunteering for your PTA, if you can get up a couple of hours or 1 hour before everybody else, you can hammer out, I've said it 100 times, I can get 5 hours worth of work done in 2 to 3 hours of uninterrupted time before anybody in my house is awake needing anything from me. So now, it has to be something that you're willing to do, and that you're willing to make some adjustments in your life to do. If early morning doesn't work for you, do the evening time. I do both. There's times where I'll only do an hour or an hour and a half before my kids start waking up. And then, so I'll stay up after they go to bed. Do what works for you. Figure out where that balance is and which place works best for you and your family. But if you can optimize that uninterrupted time as much as possible, you will find out that you can hammer out double the work in that uninterrupted time than you could while you have kids hanging on you, because you do need to be available for your children as well, and for your husband. I feel very, very sincere and passionate about that. So that is a big thing that I do. And I'll tell you, when Susan and I were talking yesterday planning for this, I mentioned how I remember when I worked in corporate America, how all of the CEOs and CFOs, that's what they did. They came in an hour or two before everybody else to get their day going, before all the interruptions and distractions and drama got started. And that's important. So, and so you do that more at night, right, Susan?
I do, but honestly, it's one of the toughest, toughest challenges in life is that I need a lot of sleep, and it really, really, really bugs me. There's a whole website, I just put over in the chat, there's a whole website inspired by Early to Rise. The website's called earlytorise.com, and absolutely, when I worked in the corporate world, all of the, the top managers, CEO, all of them, they're always in a couple hours before everyone else. Most successful people get up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and it's very frustrating to me because I can't seem to make myself do that. I am really starting to try to shift my schedule now that I'm getting more organized. I'm trying to really get more organized and put more systems into place. That's my big strategy for the next 6 months, and I was sharing that with you before. And so one of my strategies now is just, for me, is trying to not go too late at night, and is trying to, as soon as I get, the kids off to school, although summer's starting, off to school, I'm trying to exercise a little bit first. I'm really into following Tony Robbins as well, and his suggestions, and he really talks about getting that bit of exercise in the beginning. Even if you can't get an hour full of a power walk or power exercise in, if you can get 15, 20 minutes in, and then really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, as soon as I get the kids off to wherever they're going, then now that summer is going to start here. Summer for us, for kids off school, is July and August. So the kids aren't even off school yet. They get off in 2 weeks. And so that's going to throw everything apart. But anyway, I'm really trying to take that, a little bit of time, even if it's just 20 minutes in the morning, to get out and walk. Walking is actually, for me, the most therapeutic, the most amazing time for me. I center my mind, I pray, and I plan. Most of my creative ideas come when I'm actually walking. So I'm trying to make that a priority. What I really find is a big struggle of being a work-at-home mom is we are the bottom on our priority list, and there's just no way around it. We can't help it. We end up putting ourselves at the bottom, and one of the only ways I find to make myself take that time to exercise or to do something like that is remembering that, okay, even if I personally am at the bottom of my priority list, it's still a priority for my kids that I stay healthy and I stay productive. I'm working at home and trying to be productive. Bottom line, everything is for my kids, the bottom line. But to be as productive as I can be, I need to remember that taking those steps is still part of me actually having them higher on my priority list. It kind of is a twisted way of thinking about it, but I can't help it. I'm just so wired as a mom that my kids are just so much higher on my priority list than I am. But taking that time to walk and get organized and take time to plan and put systems in place, that's actually me still putting my kids first, and I have to remember that.
Mm-hmm. That's very, very good advice. And another author that I really like, who I have his book and I'm reading it, and I've actually given some copies away too because it is just such a good book. His name is John Acuff, I think is how you pronounce his last name, and it's called Start, and it's about going from average to awesome. and it's about punching fear in the face and getting over your fears and just doing it. And he's a great writer that you can really relate to, and writes in a very conversational kind of way. But now he does a lot of work with Dave Ramsey, and he talks about how it's the same thing. He says, get up early and get as much done, or if it's the nighttime, then dedicate that time. It's a common pattern, is my point. It's a common pattern that a lot of people use to effectively get things done. So even if your life is crazy and chaotic, if you can dedicate that time, you will see such a great improvement. And Susan, like you, my time where my thoughts really are uninterrupted and where I get my great ideas is in the shower, because there's no distractions. So, same kind of thing. I can totally relate. And I agree with you. Healthy mom is healthy kids. So you're right.
Exactly. Yes, I get many of my ideas also in the shower. I joke about that a lot too.
It's a mom thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the couple of minutes that we can have to ourselves. And oh, sorry, I've just got all these phones ringing. I'm just ignoring them though. Pardon that everybody doesn't know that I should have turned off my phone. Anyway, now one of the things I want to bring up here is where we physically choose to work. Now this is an interesting point, and this is going to be different from everyone. If you guys notice where I'm working right now, I'm in my office. I almost never come down here. The truth is, I have this office, and you'd think that I'd work in here all the time. And the fact of the matter is, I ended up, we had this office because we had, when we ran our toy stores, I actually had other people working in here. Okay, this is in the basement of my little townhouse. And I couldn't actually handle working when I was hearing people talking on the phones. And so I ended up, once I started working on a laptop more than a desktop, because I had my MacBook, I ended up starting to work upstairs, and I actually now prefer to be sort of almost in the center of things. Now you tell me, Crystal, again, you started with an office and again moved out of the office. So for those of you, a warning, spoiler alert, for those of you out there that are using the excuse that you can't yet work at home because you don't have a big enough house to have a separate room for an office, uh-oh, alert, spoiler alert, you can't use that excuse anymore. Crystal, tell us where you work.
So here's the brilliant thing, okay? When my twins were 2 years old and I was working from home for the company where we did training for doctors and nurses, I had a dedicated room in our house. And actually where I do my hangout is in a dedicated room that my husband uses as his office. But he needs a place for stuff that can't be touched, so it works for him. And the only reason I use this space for the hangout is so that it's a quiet room where people aren't distracting, hopefully, during the hangout. But so back at the time where I was working from home from the company back in 2007 or so, 2006, I did have a dedicated office because I felt like that's what I needed to keep little hands off of things, and to just be able to close the door and have a phone call with a client or whatever. And the day that my children broke 17 eggs in my living room while I was on a 3-minute phone call with a client is the day that I realized it was the worst idea ever, because life is happening and I have to be able to take care of my business. So no matter what kind of business it is, so whether you're volunteering, whatever, you need to be able to take care of your kids at the same time and know what's going on. So for me, I very quickly realized that an office with an office door was a super bad idea for me. So this is what I suggest to a lot of people, and this has been a lifesaver for me. I have my office set up in our dining room. And our living room, dining room, kitchen is an open concept that you can kind of walk all the way through and see all the way around, and it's the heart of the house. So my kids are in their bedroom playing. They think I have eyes in the back of my head. I hear and know everything. Somebody walks out of the kitchen with a drink into their bedroom, I catch it immediately because I am right there, and they know they can't get past me. They try, but they know that I am going to catch them. So by being set up in the middle of the home, it has really, really been beneficial. And it's seriously, we just have our kitchen table is in our little breakfast nook, and then the dining room is where I have all of our homeschool stuff, and I have a desk set up with a chair. Does it get messy? Yes. But that's where I go back to telling you that's the nature of the beast. And when your neighbor comes over and knocks on your door and your desk is a mess and that's the first thing that they see, they're your friend. They came to see you for a reason. Your house does not have to be perfect. I mean, sometimes, because I let my kids play in the living room while I'm working so that I can be right there by them. And sometimes the neighbors knock on the door and I'm like, do we hide or do we answer? Because there is stuff everywhere. You can't even sit on the couch because there's clothes that need to be folded or whatever. But that's where I go back to the nature of the beast. And you have to be able to be flexible and make this work for you and your family. So to me, having a centrally located desk set up as my office, and it's kind of your family command center, that has been a huge, huge lifesaver. And if you're struggling with that, that's one of the first places that I suggest you make a change, personally.
Yeah, I love that advice. I love that it ends up being, like I said, sort of a way to shut that excuse out that you don't have an extra room. Now Janice works at her kitchen table, and part of the reason she has done it is she didn't have an extra room for an office, and so she often sort of used that, as a, oh, I wish I had a room for an office, but the reality is she had to work at the kitchen table. Same thing is that she's can often be there, and the computer's right there, so you can grab an email and do a little bit here and there when you can. And we do often have to slice our time up, and it is very hard. And I'm gonna tell you that I don't like having to multitask so much and with my kids around. It is not the best way for me to work. It really stresses me out. My kids freak out. It start going crazy when I'm on the computer a lot. And my strategy and my work at home, the way my days are structured are quite different than Crystal's, because I do not homeschool. When Janice and I had our businesses starting, so we've been working home for a decade. My youngest is only 8. My oldest, is only 8. So for the first couple of years, Janice was the only one that had Jackson, and we multitasked looking after Jackson and working. And then eventually I had Julia. So again, we still really tag teamed. So our kids didn't have to, and we didn't have to really get super used to mommy's working and you're playing quietly on your own. Now, there's there's pros and cons to everything, okay? We didn't do it that way. So the con is our kids aren't used to playing quietly on their own while mommy's still working. They're like, hey, attention, I want attention. So it is hard for me to switch it sort of later in life. When Janice and I both had babies, we were due 4 days apart. Our second babies both came 2 weeks apart. And we were running our toy stores and 5 Minutes for Mom. And our business basically was at a place that if we took off the amount of time we would need to take off to handle our newborns, our businesses would really not have survived. It's a lot because of those toy stores. We just wouldn't have been able to get it done, and we both had to get childcare. This was a really hard decision for us. It wasn't something that we took on lightly. It was a huge financial burden for us, but it was something that we had to do. We just couldn't cope. Both of us need too much sleep. We couldn't do what Crystal did. You have to be fair and honest with yourself and the strengths and weaknesses that God has given you. God did not give Janice very good health. Janice struggles with her health. We don't talk about it too often, but she does. She needs a lot of sleep. She doesn't seem like she gets a lot of sleep because she's often up in the middle of the night, but she will often have to nap. I, as her twin sister, often have had to pick up that slack because she's had poor health. And so it's hard. It's a limitation, and you have to sort of recognize God's given you what He's given you, and if a weaker body that needs more sleep is part of your, one of the things you've had to deal with, you're going to have to work around that. We had to hire some childcare help in those days. Now both of our little ones are in kindergarten. Our lives have changed a lot now. We're both actually divorced, so we're single parenting, but we have we both are co-parenting with the kids' dads, so we have some dedicated time when the kids are with their fathers, and we no longer have nannies. We no longer have that childcare on our own days. So our lives totally change, and that's another thing to sort of really understand is that seasons. Your life goes in seasons, and as moms, we really know that. We go through the season of diapers, and you never feel like it's ever going to end. Do you know what I mean, Crystal? Like when you're in the thick of it with the babies, you never believe it'll ever end.
honey, I could write a book on that. I can tell you when my twins were little, seriously, they were 3 weeks old. I write about this in my book that I wrote about how to meal plan. They were going through their 3 week growth spurt, and I had a 6-year-old and I had a stepson that was 4, and I had not prepared my 6-year-old very well for life without mom's 100% attention. And I just remember sitting on the couch crying because these babies had nursed all day long, like for 8 hours it seemed like. This 6-year-old had been asking me to, he needed a glass of milk so bad. He wanted me to make him a glass of chocolate milk. And I mean, it was like my breaking point in, oh my goodness, how long is this? This is hard. This is really hard. And if I could just get these babies to this next phase. And it's the same thing when you're working from home. You have to understand that there is always a season. So when you get through this trench, I kept thinking, if I could just get to the point where the babies are up and they're mobile and they're walking around. Well, then when we got to that phase, it was like, well, this is hard because 2 go this way. If I could just get to when they're 2. And you're always saying, if I could just get to that next phase. But that's what life is all about. I mean, I don't know. I just, you're always getting through this season just to get to the next season. And that next season has a whole new set of things that you're going to have to acclimate to. And again, that's why I go back to, you have to be flexible. You absolutely have to be flexible when you're working from home. And that's just, I feel very passionate about that.
Exactly. It's so true. You've got to be flexible, and you want to try to enjoy the season that you're in. Winter is, in the real seasons of life, winter often is negative, but you've got to find the positives in there. You get to have a snowball fight, you get to play in the snow, and so there's good stuff mixed in, and you've got to focus on the good stuff. And really, and it's a funny little thing that I learned in my direct sales days with Melaleuca, is a little thing called celebrate your successes. In our steps when we built our businesses with Melaleuca, they had the 7 steps to success. And I always remember one of them was called celebrate your successes. And I was always the worst at that step. And I think I struggled in life. And I loved that they had that written in there as one of the 7 steps to success. And it was to celebrate your successes. And I think that this applies to us as people, as parents, as business people, as friends, as teammates. It is, I think, very profound. And I would sort of encourage you to have that, drill that into your mind, that little one of your steps to success in all areas of life is to celebrate your successes. And that means to celebrate all of your little successes as you go, as you go. And I'm constantly reminding myself to celebrate my successes. So that will happen when you're in certain seasons. And it'll even you can look back and sort of celebrate the success of even moving out of a really tough season, When you move out of the winter, or and you get into the spring of some good stuff that sort of is happening, celebrate all the things you did that got you through the tough season, and now you've got some other good stuff, but there's going to be rain in the spring, and then in the summer it's going to be too hot. So there's good and there's bad in everything. Notice them, celebrate them for them, and try to create strategies to help you get from one to the next in the best way. So we're going to talk a little bit more now about those strategies. We've talked about the key strategy of positioning yourself physically in your home for what is most successful for you. Now, some women, with their particular kids, working in a closed door room with the door closed, that's what it's going to take. And I remember years ago, I interviewed Design Mom, who many of you might know, super successful, super talented. She's got a whole host of kids. She lives in Paris, France, I think, right now, but has a very successful blog. And I asked her how she managed. And she was a lot like me in the sense that she did not multitask with her kids around and slice her work in that way. It just wasn't how she happened to do it. She worked smaller, concentrated amounts of time when her kids were little and did that closed door office. That was her work time, and sort of structured her days differently. And that was how she had to do it. As her kids have aged and changed, I'm sure that the amount of time she works has changed. And she did talk about how when they were younger, she did less work, and then she worked more and more. So her strategy was really creating very top quality content. If you know her site, Design Mom, you'll know that she's a very talented visual designer type person, so she had really strong content. She didn't necessarily pump out tons and tons and tons of content. And her monetization strategy, her strategies were different than some of us who may be pumping out lots more content. And she has sort of had the strategy of really, really top content and a really high visibility for her extremely high quality content. So her strategy was very different. But you need to know what works for you and then create a system. If that system is getting up 2 hours early, getting 2 hours done before the kids wake up, then if your kids are little and they're before they're even in school, or you're homeschooling, then perhaps setting up a central thing where your computer is nearby and you can slice in and multitask, and you can say, okay kids, you work on this assignment, color these sheets, do this. Maybe if they're super little, you set them up with a couple of toys, or even, heaven forbid, some of us do occasionally let them watch some TV for a little bit. If you structure in a little bit of, there's lots of educational shows. The shows that I use the most for my little girl, Julia, were signing times. When Julia was a baby, she was my first, so I kept a lot of her influences very pure. She never had any sugar practically until she was 2. She never had any candy until she was 2. My second, I cannot brag about the same thing. But my first, the only thing she ever knew that was on TV was signing times. And oh, I'm just forgetting. The singing guys. I must have blocked it out of my mind. Those Australians that sing. I've blocked it out because the Wiggles. Thank you. Yes, the Wiggles. So all she knew that were on TV. That literally, I only put those DVDs in. So it's all she knew. And but signing times. Oh my word, that is educational TV. She learned to sign so well from those videos. She used over 200 signing words. She used them in sentences. It was amazing. So you can, put that into your strategy. Did you use any particular educational videos or anything like that, Crystal?
Well, I am a person, first of all, the TV is generally on Sprout or PBS at my house all the time, and it's not that people are sitting there watching it. It may just be background noise. And when Caillou comes on or Thomas comes on, they really want to watch that, so they watch that. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of educational toys. My kids are huge into Legos and things like that, but then also, even before we homeschool, I have readily available toys that are not just that teach something along the way. So, and now that we do homeschool, all of that's set up in the dining room on bookshelves, and so I will get that stuff down and allow, have the 4-year-old play with that, or have the 7-year-olds play with this or that. But I will say that oftentimes I have read this over and over again, and I have implemented it, and I can tell you that it's true. Generally, 20 minutes. If you can give your children 20 minutes of your undivided attention, 20 minutes, no distractions, no checking email, no nothing. Leave the phone alone, leave the computer alone. So when they first get up, if you can give them 20 minutes to you can read to them, you can just sit and play with them, sit and talk to them, whatever it is. If you will give them that, generally, that will get them going, and they're not going to constantly be climbing in your lap or constantly be looking and seeking your undivided attention. So I have found it useful if I can give them 20 minutes of my undivided attention. We generally, starting the day off, we generally have a much smoother afternoon. But we do what you do, Susan. The TV, I'm fine with my kids watching some Barney, and I'm fine with playing Legos, and my kids are allowed to bring toys into the living room. I don't have a problem with that. This is a lived-in home, and that's another place where it's understanding the nature of the beast. This is a lived-in home, and this is my family, and we are here to live. And I'm watching comments that are coming in, and people are saying, I work from my couch, I work from the kitchen table. You create your own norm. You create what works for you. That is the beauty in all of this, and that's the beauty in being able to work from home and create your business from home, or be able to supplement the family's income with you working from home. You need to create your own norm, and if it doesn't matter that it's not fancy working from the couch, that's perfect. It's great. You're getting the job done. You're getting you're getting done what you set out to do, and that's perfect. Someone had also asked in the comments, what, I think it was Furley said, what work do I get done before the kids get up, opposed to what work I will work on while they're up and about. Really, the easiest answer to that is I just sit down and try to hammer out as much stuff as I can while they're asleep. So if I have a ton of emails to go through, I can go through those much quicker when I have no distractions. I'm generally trying to hammer out a blog post before they get up in the morning. And you know, a blog post can take anywhere from 30 minutes to a couple of hours, depending on, you've got to edit photos. There's just so much that goes into all of that. So if I have constant distractions and I don't get a blog post out before kids get up, then it will take me until 7 o'clock at night to get it done, because it's just bits and pieces here while I'm making sandwiches or whatever. But I always wake up with the idea in mind to just hammer out as much work as I can, so that then when they are up, I'm not having to worry about getting the busy work that needs a lot of my attention done, and I can just steadily check emails as they're coming in, because I can handle that. Checking emails while the kids are playing is manageable. And then what I don't get done in the evening, once the kids are in bed, or done with bath time and whatnot, then that's when I can go back to working on the things that take a lot of my attention and a lot of my mental capacity, mental use. So that's kind of how I do that.
Definitely. I just wanted to add there. I would say, yeah, writing posts, doing your most creative work would be the best to do in the morning, and stuff that has to get done. Then the perfect thing to do when you're multitasking with your kids is social media sharing. That is the number one thing I do when I'm with my kids. So that's when you want to be clicking through, adding things to your buffer. So for Twitter, so what you want to do is, because then you can do that on your phone, right? If you're still there and you're watching them, say you've taken them for a walk over to the park or something like that, then you're on your phone, add stuff to your buffer, go through your Instagram, like some stuff from some friends, go through Facebook, go through Google Plus One. That is the time to do your social media, because you don't have to have full attention then. And then later again, when you've got a bit of segmented time, and I like what you said about 20 minutes of spending attention to kids is good, but also if you give them a certain thing to do for 20 minutes, set a timer and say, Mommy will be done in 20 minutes or 40 minutes if it has to be. Those amounts of time are actually very concentrated amount. We can do a lot if we have 40 minutes of uninterrupted time. So if you can be honest with them, set a timer, say, Mommy's working for 40 minutes. You guys can watch, this video while you're watching that video, or playing with this toy, or doing this homework assignment, or whatever. Then Mommy's going to give you 15 minutes or whatever it's going to be, and we're going to play certain game, hide and seek or whatever it is they want. Now, what I want to move on to is the whole concept of utilizing help and playgrounds and bartering with friends, other ideas of things that we have to do to be successful. Now, Janice and I are lucky that we have two of us, so we tag team a lot. What I would recommend is that you sort of find someone that you can tag team with, whether if it's for parenting duties or working at home duties. So find a friend that wants to swap playdate times with you. There's other moms that maybe they're working at home, or maybe they just want time off. But when your kids are at an age where you can sort of babysit them to each other, like for each other, then do that. And you have to push hard to find those friendships and those relationships. They don't come knocking at your door usually. You have to push and find them and then create the friendships. Crystal and Kelly have a powerful business friendship that helps, and also helps them work-wise, helps them emotionally as well. But that friendship didn't just fall in Crystal's lap. Crystal pushed hard to find that. And then Kelly was so open and giving of her time and her knowledge that she gave first to create in Crystal as helpful of a resource. She had to bring Crystal up to speed so that Crystal could actually help her as much as she can help Crystal. But you got to push hard to find and build those relationships. Don't you agree, Crystal?
Yes, absolutely. That is so true. And I have a couple of things to say about that. Number one, finding that person, although Kelly lives in Alabama and I live here in Texas, she is a huge support for me. And so, number one, when she and I are planning, we do a weekly hangout every Tuesday on teaching people. It's a Learn to Blog series on teaching people to blog. So, you know, it'll take us an hour or so to prep for our next hangout. So while I'm taking kids to the park or whatever, or while I'm getting dinner going and kids are doing things, that's when I'll spend an hour talking to Kelly on the phone about, or 30 minutes or however long it takes, about what our next hangout is about. So that's working, but I'm also getting mommy stuff done and responsibilities around the home. But another thing that has really worked very well for Kelly and I is Kelly is a very stat-driven person. She's a very fact-driven person. And she's driven in the way that she will hold me accountable for things that, and I need that. I need that in her, and I count on that in her. And it wasn't like I said, can I count on you to make me accountable? But it just kind of, the personality types that we are, it just grew to that. Where I'm more of the person, you know, she's an idea person too, but I may have an idea and I'm like, how do we do this? I have this idea, but how do we do this? Or I'm the person that's, you know, motivating. We need to keep going. We need to keep doing this. We're going to make an impact. We're going to have I know what the final result's going to be. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So we both, we really help one another in that way. It's opposites attract. So it's what you always hear. So we work off of each other's strengths and off of each other's weaknesses and compensate and help one another in that way. But utilizing what Susan was saying in the beginning, utilizing your family and friends and alternative ways to get work done. So if you are not able to get up early or stay up late, or if you're wanting to do that plus kind of something else, something that I do is I will take the kids and we'll go to McDonald's and use free Wi-Fi, or go to Chick-fil-A and use free Wi-Fi, and I let them play in the playground while I'm getting some work done. Because there comes a point where the kids just want to get out of the house. So that's always an option. And you don't have to go and spend $30 on lunch. You can go and just buy a 50-cent ice cream. I mean, they can play, they get some of their energy out. If you have a hot spot and you can go to the park and let them play, usually they just want to get out of the house and have a change of scenery. Something else that I've suggested to other moms, and something else that I do, I have a husband who is incredibly supportive of what I do here in blogging, and he gets it and he understands it, and he's one of my biggest cheerleaders. He will take the kids when he knows that I'm pressed with a big deadline. He will take the kids and go and do something with them if I haven't been able to get something done, so that I can have that, you know, 1 hour of uninterrupted time that really converts to 2.5 hours of quality work. But something that I've suggested to people is, if you have a teenage relative that is available after school hours, to maybe take the kids for an hour or for 2 hours and go do something with them. Or if, say, every Saturday your mom agrees to come over and take the kids for a couple of hours and spend time with them, so that you can get a few things done. I'm looking for free resources, is my point, so that you're not having to pay somebody to get work done, and they can spend some time, you know, entertain the kids for you for a couple of hours, so that you can get some uninterrupted time to get some stuff done. That has been very helpful and is very budget friendly. So those are a few of the ways. I always encourage you to think outside of the box and create your own norm. So those are the big places that I would start with trying to get work done outside of getting up early and staying up late.
Definitely. Those are all really great suggestions. I want to respond here to one of the questions and switch our conversation over to sort of some of the tools that we can use. Diane asks, do you guys use any type of organizers for your blog and or your life? And if you do you have separate ones or a combined one? Do you, Crystal, use an organizer of any sort, online or offline?
The only thing I use is an editorial calendar, and I'm not very good at that. And it's really just when an idea strikes me and I think I need to write a blog post about this, I'll go in and put the title in and put down my few thoughts, and I move on. When I tell you that I am one of the most unorganized people on the planet, I say that with the most sincerity, because I was a very organized person before I had kids. But now, I mean, I hate to even walk in my laundry room. So I'm still in the trenches, and I'm in that season of my life. And I know that my kids will grow up, and someday my house will be clean again, and someday everything will be tidy and organized. But right now, that's just not the way that it is.
Yeah.
So I've tried organizers, but none of them really have worked perfectly for me.
You know, and it's, I love your honesty there, and I'll be honest too. I am terrible with trying to get things in organized. I'm trying to get things much more systematized, though. So this is one of my goals, is to get things more organized and to have our editorial calendar for 5 Minutes from Mom just be also more more complete and more effective. We do use editorial calendar. And oh, John has just shared an app that I definitely use, and it's called To Do. He's put that in there, and I like that. That's a very simple to-do list online that that you can put things in, and then it'll bring them forward to the next day. You know, I hate that when I've written a to-do list and I haven't gotten something done, and then I don't want to transfer it on, but you can cross things on and off. So that is a website that I do use. He's put that in there, and I want to also point out a great app that I just reviewed, and I haven't started using it myself actively yet. I just downloaded it and just started. I just published this post like 2 days ago on Monday, so I'm just going to put the link to my post in here. I think this actually really looks like a great app. It's called Life Topics, and it pulls in, it works, it incorporates. If you use Evernote, and if you're, obviously we're all using our calendars at some degree. I mean, Google Calendar or whatever in your Outlook calendar or whatever calendar you're using. I mean, we all are naturally using those. So this, oh, I'm in the wrong, sorry, I was just going to share. I'm just going to do a quick screen share and quickly click through. Well, maybe, should I do, where's my screen share thing?
Well, while you're doing that, I will say, Anne has said that she has a planner, but she also ends up carrying about 4 different notepads and notebooks in her purse and her business bag. I get that, and that's part of why, you know, I have a notebook that I carry around with me, and I have, and it's just a spiral notebook that I carry. And I've tried different organizers, but at the end of the day, I end up carrying all of this stuff around, and our life is so here, there, and everywhere that that's just proved to be a little more difficult for me. But you guys have to find what works for you, and there is a system out there. You just have to find what works.
Absolutely.
Okay, Susan, what are you sharing?
So I'm just screen sharing here. This was my post that I wrote about this app, and I do think this literally does seem like a really great way to pull in. The fact is, we do all use information in all kinds of places. So I was really impressed. Like I say, disclosure, this was a sponsored post, but this is amazing. It brings in, it connects all these 12 different areas of your life, brings in and connects your to-dos and agendas, and you can connect your shopping lists to your tasks, and it actually looks like a really great little app. So that's the post there. I've shared the link in the stream. I wanted to also point out a couple of other posts from our community and from our website. Furley, one of our interns, wrote this great post with her 4 steps to organizing your days to manage your time. I'll share this link over there as well in the comments in the stream. And so she talks about really organizing her priorities, and that's something that we need to all do. She talks about setting her boundaries, being flexible, which we talked about a lot, getting support, and we talked about that. And she really organizes her days by visually putting them out into a calendar. And this really helps her to block out her time and know exactly. And one of the things I liked about her schedule is she leaves blank time in there to be flexible and to know that as a mom, nothing works completely to schedule. So I love the way Furley, in her actual planner, plans in blank time. You'll notice from 1:30 to 2, there's nothing in there. Over here, she's got blank spaces, and so I really like that. Emily here, in another one of our interns, talks about using Pinterest to stay out of a meal planning rut. And Crystal didn't talk too much, but she's very, very big into meal planning, and I know that that's a huge strategy and a huge system that Crystal uses, is meal planning. I'm trying to get better about that. But this is a great post from Emily about meal planning. You are big on meal planning, aren't you, Crystal?
Yes, yes, yes. It's a must. It's the only way my family gets fed. So
Yeah.
you find a system that works and stick to it for sure.
So it's funny because Crystal, I think, like myself, Crystal and I, we tend to say, oh, we're super disorganized and really kind of sort of put ourselves down about being disorganized. But obviously, Crystal is not completely disorganized. She's homeschooling, and that requires planning. I hate to say it. Obviously, it does. And she's a huge meal planning person. And meal planning is one of the biggest strategies and systems you can use for effectively organizing your family life. Meal planning as parents, oh my gosh, if I always joke around saying if I just didn't have to feed my kids, parenting would be such a breeze, because I find feeding and thinking of all the meals and the grocery shopping, I mean, if you think of it, as moms, one of the huge things we have to do is feed our families. So meal planning, I need to do it. Crystal's a queen. She's written a book on it. So Crystal, maybe you could share your link later to your book in the posts. We also have some other examples of some other posts on our site about working at home and ways that you can just improve things there. So this is just another quick post. I liked this. That was a guest post on our site. And here she talks about making your home office a healthier place to work. And this is a couple of good little reminders, is to stay healthy. If you are sitting for a long time and working, lots of times as moms we're jumping up and stuff, but you know, remembering to quit staring at the screen too long and hurting yourself with repetitive stress injury, you can remind yourself, and that can be a great way to balance your time at home with your kids. Get up, do a few yoga stretches with the kids. You're going to work for a little bit, get up, do some stretches, do a little bit of exercise by going for a little walk, that kind of thing. And this here is a post from Pamela where she talks about 6 mini breaks. Again, the same idea. You need mini breaks, so incorporate those with your kids. Get up and dance with your kids. They'll have so much fun for a few minutes. Pamela says listening to music is a huge boost for her productivity. So do it with the kids. You can have, you know, you can play silly, annoying Barney music if you want, if that was what makes them fun, or you can introduce them to, you know, Motown, for goodness sake, and have fun with that. You can teach them about music while you're doing it. And getting outdoors, again, these are things you can do with your kids and yourself. And she gives about some different examples there of ideas. We also put a call out to some of our other blogging friends and asked them to share with us some of their ideas. Now, I think I'm not sharing the right screen here now. Let me just copy this into this screen over here. This was the Early to Rise website I mentioned. I really recommend going to that. I'm just going to quickly, out of time here, I'm going to quickly just bring up a couple of posts from some of our readers. Funky Faith Girl here. This should hopefully bring up here. Funky Faith Girl talks about her kid and school command center, and I see so many great ideas on Pinterest for command centers. I absolutely have to make one of these, but this is a great way to put systems in place for your family. A command center like this can help you organize your family, which again, when you organize and simplify your family life, you get more time to work. So I love that from Funky Faith Girl. And March Maideness, I love this. This was her from Simple Home Blessings. This is in the wrong window again here. Let me just pull up over here this, and I'll link to these later. We're going to link to these in our posts, my post that will be about this, where I'll embed this video. I'm going to link to these. Again, she's put in some systems for her cleaning. She calls it March Maideness, a month-long challenge to find your inner maid, which is hilarious because I'm telling you, ladies, there's nothing I hate more in life than cleaning. But it is great the way you can find lots of printables and ideas on Pinterest and on other mom blogger sites with how they put little systems in place. And I love this. This is her Monday morning refresh in 15 minutes. Start a load of laundry, let light in, strip linens off the beds, dust all her surfaces, dispose of trash, make her bed, door handles, wipe down the door handles and light switches, and vacuum and sweep floors. And that takes her 15 minutes, and in the Monday morning refreshes her house. Now, girls, I've never done anything like that in my life, but I mean, great idea. And these are kinds of things that don't come naturally to me, I admit it. but we can get inspiration from our friends and oh, sorry, I was switching windows there, and get inspiration from our blogging friends and systems that they're using, and inspire ourselves and maybe stretch ourselves. And maybe, like myself, I can try and stop, as Tony Robbins would say, stop this story, this excuse that I'm just a disorganized person who hates cleaning. You know, maybe I could push past that story of I'm disorganized, I can't meal plan, I can't do this stuff because I'm a disorganized person who doesn't like mornings and whatever. You know, maybe we can try to use our inspiration of our blogging friends, use inspiration from Pinterest, look to our friends like Crystal who managed to do so much, and then still call herself disorganized. I love that. As if she's disorganized. That's comical. Anyway, yeah, and we can push past and get that in place.
I wanted to say a few quick things on the roundup that you just showed of cleaning. A lot of times I realize, because I hate cleaning too, and a lot of times I realize that once I get in there and clean the bathroom, it only took like 10 minutes, and it was something I dreaded so much. And you just have to do it. You just have to get it done and stop dreading it, because moms are notorious. I say this all the time with meal planning. Moms are notorious for making things so much harder than they need to be. We really, really are. And that comes with meal planning. That comes with keeping our homes. That comes with working from home and running a business from home. We really have this great divine skill of making things more complicated than it needs to be. But I wanted to tell you, there's one more step or one more tip that we didn't cover, and it's a real quick one. And it's as important to me as all the rest of them, and it is, you must identify ground rules when you're working from home, ground rules for your family. So I'm not talking about 20 rules that the kids have to remember and they're overwhelmed and it's daunting. I'm not talking about those kind of rules. I'm talking about the basic, simple rules, and at my house they are: no food in your bedroom or the living room, no food or drinks outside of the kitchen. And I'm in that centrally located office space desk, so I see everything that's coming out of my kitchen. You know, sometimes a stray apple makes it over by the toy box, but it's very, very rare. Another rule that I have is no hands on each other, no hurting each other. Yeah, you can play happily, you can have a disagreement, but you must not put your hands on each other. And again, I'm centrally located, so I can see what's going on, and I know when I have to get up and break up a knockdown, drag out, or whatnot. But identify those rules. Don't make it a long list of 10, 15, 20 rules. Make it short and sweet, and it's something that your kids know that they can obtain, and it's something that's not overwhelming for you. And if you're just constantly reiterating, I'm sorry, you're not supposed to have drinks in the living room, you know that, you're, reiterating, keep your hands off of each other, whatever those rules are, then I promise you the day will go so much smoother. And really, again, let's not make this more difficult than it needs to be. It truly is. There's a job that needs to be done. Put the resources. I'm all about finding resources and solutions. So find the resources and put them in place. And like Susan said, there's just so much out there now with Pinterest and blogs that are, people have so much information to share. Find those solutions and put them in place for you. And I'm just a firm believer in all of that. So thank you, Susan, for having me on. I truly appreciate it, and I hope that I've been able to help someone.
Well, Crystal, thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to summarize again some of these points that we've made. I'm just going to do a quick little summary and of some of the key points that Crystal shared. And I just want to really reiterate. Crystal jokes around, calls herself disorganized. Obviously, she doesn't focus on having to be perfectly organized, but she puts the key systems in place, and she knows the important things. So for her ground rules, again, she's not making a huge list of a complicated set of ground rules. She's picking out her 2 or 3 most important ones and helping the kids to understand that's her critical thing. She takes the other majorly important advice that so many CEOs and everyone, the whole Early to Rise website is all about it. She gets up a couple of hours early, or an hour and a half early to 2 hours early, and gets concentrated work done on the most brain-intensive creative work. Then throughout the day can do some of the social media, the email replying, that type of stuff as she's juggling it with her kids. She really focuses on giving the kids some concentrated time, then focusing on her work, letting kids know with a timer or whatever when mom's going to have a certain amount of time. She also, in her day, she stays flexible, but she'll use things like going for getting Wi-Fi at a park, or if there's a hotspot at a park, or at a place like a Chick-fil-A or a McDonald's, that she can use that there. She's sharing responsibilities and helping and supporting each other with key relationships, like with Kelly, and she, you know, if you are lucky and you have family nearby for home type of or babysitting type of things, or pushing hard to find other friendships that are outside of family, so putting those in place. She's huge with meal planning, which is one of the biggest systems that we as moms can get into place, and one of the that I have to do. I don't do it, and I need to do it. So meal planning, that's one of your most important systems, and not focusing on having to have your house be perfect. You don't want to get into an all or nothing type of thing. That's one of my biggest weaknesses. I'm an all or nothing kind of person, and I get overwhelmed that I can't get my house all completely clean. I can't get everything done, so I don't do anything. So try not to be all or nothing thinking. And so again, keep it simple, like Crystal said. Keep it simple. Look at your key goals. Remember, you're in seasons. You're going to move from one season to the next in your family life and in your work life. Embrace the negative and the positive of each season and move towards the next. We have had such a great chat here. Crystal has something quick to say?
Yeah, just one more quick thing. I promise I'll stop thinking of things to say. And this is something that I say in meal planning, and it applies to moms across the board. The next time you're working from home and you have the most successful day and you're like, wow, this was good. This was great. Everybody got along. I was productive. I got lots of work done. This was a fantastic day. Step back and analyze that and think to yourself right then and there while it's fresh on your mind, what made today successful? Because tomorrow you want to duplicate that same thing. It can be done. With success comes more success. And the next time that you have a day that is an absolute terror and you're pulling your hair out and you're just like, I can't, Calgon, take me away, step back at the end of the day and say, what made today absolutely unbearable? Identify those things because they're there. Something there made today ridiculously crazy. Identify those things and make an asserted effort to not repeat that same thing again, because it's what Susan was just saying. Failure feeds failure. Success feeds success. If you go into this thinking you can't do it, you're going to go into this thinking that you're going to fail. It's small bites. It's making it work for you. So let success feed off of success. And as you have those great seamless days, identify what made it work and repeat that tomorrow. So, okay, there you go. I'm done.
I love that, Crystal. I love that. And definitely, if your business is blogging, you absolutely do not want to miss a single Learn to Blog session. I watch them all, okay? You can find them with the hashtag Learn to Blog. Go to Crystal's Google Plus page, look on her videos and Kelly's, and you'll find them. You do not want to miss those. Those are absolutely, I can't believe they're sharing that information for free. Like, it's ridiculous what they're sharing. Absolutely, all their secrets. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us on this WOM Strategy Hour, Work at Home Mom Strategy Hour, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. We run these every 2 weeks on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 Eastern. So thank you, Crystal, and thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Susan.